So this is a far cry from what I expected my first video returning to this channel would be, because the more I got into this, the more I realized that 40k has been around for 40, almost 50 years now, and there's a lot of people with a lot more experience that are going to produce more entertaining videos on YouTube, especially for the new player audience. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of realized, well, 40k has been around for 40, almost 50 years for now, and that new player experience might be lost on some people that have been playing since even first edition, second, third, maybe even 8th or ninth. So I kind of wanted to make a video documenting what my experience as a new Warhammer 40k player was like, kind of explain how I got into it and where I'm at currently 4 months into the hobby. So let's get into it. This is the new player experience for Warhammer 40,000. So to start things off, I don't want to actually start off with like the books, the lore, the minifigures, the tabletop game. I don't want to start off with any of that because that'll all come in due time. I want to start off with actually how I got into Warhammer 40,000 because I think I got into it maybe a little bit differently than most people, and it's a possible way of entry that is going to hit the modern age, I think, especially hard. So let's get into it. Around December and January, December 2024, January 2025, I wanted to start playing a different kind of game because I mostly play PvP games. If you've seen my previous videos, I wanted to play a different kind of game. I want a game that I could chill out, I could relax, I could shoot stuff, something kind of COD Zombies-ish, you know, and I remembered that I had bought this game called Warhammer 40,000 Darktide back when it first came out, and I decided to revisit that game. And while I was playing, it's not something that you actively pay attention to while playing. You're much more enticed by the gameplay, with grinding your weapon masteries, grinding your character level and stuff like that. But I remember specifically on one mission, one of my friends said, "I love 40,000. The servo skulls are super cool." And I didn't know anything about what a servo skull even was. Even though you actively use them in 40,000 Darktide, I didn't know what they were. So I asked. I said, well, I don't know anything about 40k. What in the hell is the servo skull? And that's when I got my first explanation of Warhammer 40,000 lore, where servo skulls are these like mutilated human brains that are essentially just AI-atized, but not really, because the Imperium hates AI. So they're just humans encased to constantly do one job for the rest of eternity. And I was like, wow, that's fucked up. That's really fucking cool. And as I got that tidbit of lore, I started paying more and more attention through all the missions in Darktide, which if you haven't played that video game, especially as a 40k player, I highly recommend checking it out. The scenery, the levels, everything is super beautiful about that game. I promise you, you will love it. And that's what I started to notice. I started to notice, wow, this library is fucking awesome. There's skulls and banners everywhere. There's books fucking like up and down 10 stories. It is just this super dark gothic, super cool universe. And from there, I was completely hooked. I ended up full diving into 40k. I started watching Bricky and Poorhammer and a lot of other like podcasts and channels that started explaining 40k lore and the 40k tabletop, and my interest grew wildly. This was really interesting because I've never shown any interest in tabletop games ever in my life. I played video games for the last 15 years, and I've notoriously kind of hated tabletops. I've never had an interest in Dungeons and Dragons, hardly even knew what Warhammer was as a tabletop. I hate tabletop board games, so this was a really different route to go. But I remember asking my friend one day if he wanted to go to the tabletop game store that's right next to our workplace, where I saw the Warhammer 40,000 Ultimate Starter Set. I went in with no plans of buying anything. I just wanted to look at the Warhammer stuff they had, and I ended up impulse buying this $300 starter set to get started in Warhammer. And then the next day, myself and 4 friends all got together, built all of the models, and ended up running our first game of Warhammer 40k, Space Marines vs. Tyranids, just like in the starter set, and just went through all the tutorials, the rules, everything, and started that adventure down 40k. Sorry if the camera quality is a little different. I'm trying to make my shirt not as blindingly bright for you guys, but you know, whatever. So that's all happened back in January and February. I bought that starter set in February, and I played my first game of 40k. Unfortunately, didn't really get the opportunity to really pursue 40k in March, as I was working on an instrument pilot certificate. So my March was pretty busy, but once I finished that in April, I got started on 40k all over again. I wanted to keep working on stuff. I never got the opportunity to paint, so I painted my first figure, and I'll put pictures up so you can kind of see that. It's really not the greatest. I did it in an all-nighter, so it wasn't the smartest idea, and but for my first paint, I don't think it was that bad. It was something where I got the paint kit, the paint starter kit from Games Workshop, and I watched the Games Workshop tutorial on how to start painting your first Infernace squad when you get that, you know, combat patrol with the ultimate starter set. I am midway through my second Infernace Marine right now, and I want to try to paint them all probably today by the time I finish this video. And I guess I can kind of rewind a little bit here. I really wanted to keep playing 40k. I really liked it, and because I got my friends to come over and play that starter set, my friends also realized they liked it. They're bigger into tabletops than I am. They like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So a lot of my friends also started pursuing 40k armies. So across my whole friend group, we now have everyone bought combat patrols to start out with, and then we're all gonna kind of start molding our armies from there. But the combat patrols, I think, just provide a decent baseline, even though it's kind of a waste of money in the long term because a lot of those armies won't use the same units and stuff. I think it's still a good baseline to just get people playing the game. So as of today, as of the moment of recording my video, in my group, we have a Space Wolves player, a Dark Angels player. We have myself with Space Marines. I'm building a Raven Guard detachment, but there's no combat patrol for that. I also have the AdMech combat patrol. We have a Sororitas player. I gave my Tyranids over to a friend as a late birthday gift. So we have a Tyranids player, we have a Necrons player, an Orcs player, a Custodes player, and another Space Marine player. So we've got about 10 different players, all running different or you know, different detachments of armies, and we are trying to like start scheduling so that we can start playing once a week and stuff like that. And now coming into April, I just yesterday bought that AdMech Combat Patrol because I decided that I want to do AdMech, but I'm also kind of split between two different armies. So I, at the moment, am kind of doing two separate things because I want a cheaper army to run and build, and also an easier one to understand and paint, but I like AdMech, so I still want to build AdMech. So AdMech, even though I have the Combat Patrol, I want the Combat Patrol so that if there's non-Warhammer players that want to play, I have two armies. Like my younger brother, I really want to try to get him into it. So I have two armies, but I want to put more focus into building that Raven Guard detachment. I got started. I just purchased a Kayvon Shrike, and I'm trying to get a Librarian and Phobos armor. If you play the tabletop and you're curious at all in that Raven Guard army list, I'll post it here. If you have any recommendations, please do let me know. This was something that I took our most experienced Warhammer player, who's not really like super experienced either because he got into it at the same time I did. So we're both just kind of learning together. He just did way more research, so he has a better understanding. So I made it with the help of him, but obviously neither of us have been in for any more than, you know, 2 months. He's our Custodes player, and that's kind of where I'm at right now with Warhammer. So I got stuff painted, I have a plan on where I want to take things, and then I got essentially just like I got a plan for 2025 on the armies that I want, probably across the next 2 years, because I'll probably do Raven Guard in 2025 and AdMech in 2026 because I'm not really working a high-paying job, so I gotta space that out a little bit. But that's everything Warhammer that I've done. As a new player, that is everything Warhammer that I have done. And I will try to post more videos to update my process in getting more into Warhammer. And I might post some gameplay stuff as well, because I feel like getting people into Darktide or Space Marine 2 could also be fun. And I built up a Steam library. I bought Dawn of War 2, Inquisitor, Battle Sector was kind of mid, but I bought Battle Sector. I bought Gladius, and I've played a good chunk of those games for a little bit of time. So maybe I'll post some gameplay stuff on there as well. Really quickly as well, I'm going to kind of splice this in somewhere where it fits, but I did also want to explain, I haven't read any of the books yet. I want to get around to it, but books are just kind of expensive, and I want to put more money towards the actual figures and painting and stuff like that. But I do intend on reading the books, so I'll definitely cover that in future videos. Otherwise, I've used a mesh of different podcasts to kind of learn the lore, as well as some video games and using the Warhammer TV and stuff like that. That's kind of been my lore entry. But if you want to hear about books, I'll 1000% cover those in a later video once I get around to start buying them and reading them. So just wanted to put that in there. I don't really want to become a Warhammer specific channel. I kind of would like to go back to making video game videos on my PvP games, but I do want to continue updating this as a series on my progression through Warhammer, specifically in 2025. So if you're interested, feel free to subscribe. I'll try to post these videos probably once a month and just update where I'm at and show you guys the paints that I'm doing and the army builds that I want to get going, etc. But that's kind of the end of the start of my new player Warhammer experience. If you have anything to say, please let me know in the comments, whether it's about the army build for Raven Guard that I have going on, whether it's about recommendations for painting. As I said, I followed the GW video, which means I did my base paint with a paintbrush rather than spray can or airbrush. So I've been looking and stuff like that. If you guys have channels to recommend, feel free to drop them as well. Anything to make this new player experience like more fun for myself and my friends, would love to hear it. But otherwise, that's probably it for this video. I appreciate you watching. I'm sorry it's kind of a weird rant, but maybe some people will find it interesting, so I wanted to get it out there. If you're interested in PvP games at all, I do stream both on this channel and on twitch.tv/TJHyde. So feel free to join me there. We can also talk Warhammer in the chat because I'm just interested in this stuff. I play with a lot of my friends that are also now getting into it. So I'd love to talk Warhammer, and if you're interested in things like Overwatch, League of Legends, Marvel Rivals, etc., I play tons of that there, and those are games I'm decent at, so we can always talk that too. Otherwise, I appreciate everybody for watching. My name's TJ Hyde, and I'll catch you in the next video.